pride and shame. Sometimes the scars ain't worth the pain. Hit 'em where it hurts 'em. Can't stop the rain. Let the money burn, feed the fame. We don't give a damn about it. I'm an outlaw, cooler than the West Coast. I'm a young gun looking for a smoke show. Quick to draw and I shoot to kill. Do it all for the thrill of it. There she goes again. Pretty eye coming from the other side looking for sin. And I'm bringing out the devil in her. I'm an outlaw, cooler than the West Coast. I'm a young gun looking for a smoke show. Quick to draw and I shoot to kill. Do it all for the thrill of it. I'm an outlaw, glad it's on the East Coast. I'm a free bird looking for my next show. Quick to draw and I shoot to kill. Do it all for the thrill of it. Cooler than the West Coast. I'm a young gun looking for a smoke show. Quick to draw and I shoot to kill. Do it all for the thrill of it. I'm an outlaw, glad it's on the East Coast. I'm a free bird looking for my next show. Quick to draw and I shoot to kill. Do it all for the thrill of it. I'm an outlaw, cooler than the West Coast. I'm a young gun looking for a smoke show. Quick to draw and I shoot to kill. Do it all for the thrill of it. I'm an outlaw, glad it's on the East Coast. I'm a free bird looking for my next show. Quick to draw and I shoot to kill. Do it all keep on believing something's gonna happen. We're no longer dreaming. I got a feeling. I believe it. There's nobody better. Let's get together. I know the road is hard. Too bad to give it up. Not gonna let go. Not gonna give in. Say yeah, yeah. Say yeah, yeah. Dive in it, go in it. No fear, no limit. Yeah, yeah. Dive in it, go in it. No fear, no limit. Yeah, yeah. No limit, no limit, no limit. No limit, no limit, no limit. I got a feeling. You best believe it. Believe it. I believe it. There's nobody better. Let's get together. I know the road is hard. Too bad to give it up. Not gonna let go. Not gonna give in. Say yeah, yeah. Say yeah, yeah. Dive in it, go in it. No fear, no limit. Yeah, yeah. No limit, no limit, no limit. No limit, no limit. Dive in it, go in it. No fear, no limit. Yeah, yeah. No limit, no limit, no limit. No limit, no limit, no limit. There's nobody better. Let's get together. I know the road is hard. Too bad to give it up. Not gonna let go. Not gonna give in. Say yeah, yeah. Say yeah, yeah. Dive in it, go in it. No fear, no limit. Yeah, yeah. No limit, no limit, no limit. No limit, no limit. Dive in it, go in it. No fear, no limit. Yeah, yeah. No limit, no limit, no limit. No limit, no limit, no limit.
Flight is in, set no more!
Victory is written! Immortals play no more!
Icons 2022, day number 10. Hello, everyone, and welcome watching around the world. We're coming to you live from the Suntech Convention Center here in Singapore. It's time for the final day of Group Stage. Today, 4 teams will move one step closer to the first Wild Rift Global Championship. That also means 4 teams will have their dreams end right here tonight. Hi, everyone. I'm Daniel Digon Gonzalez, and here to break down every gank, steal, and questionable draft, it's Stuart and Omo. Gents, how's it going? Stuart, how are you?
I'm feeling okay. I'm feeling as good as what I can be at the moment after yesterday. I think yesterday was a tough day for me.
Yeah,
I wasn't on the broadcast.
What happened yesterday?
Yeah.
I don't remember. Stuart, what happened yesterday? What got you down?
I don't want to talk about it. I thought that I was the curse and I was off broadcast. So I was like, okay, Team Case are going to win. But I'm not the curse after all.
Turns out they didn't need a curse to lose.
Wow, jeez. All right, Omo, I'm not even going to ask you how you're doing after that.
I'm doing great, Digon.
Thank you for letting us know. Jeez. Yesterday, we had the losers bracket 4 teams were eliminated from Icon. So what were your biggest takeaways? Omo, we'll start with you.
Well, the biggest thing I'm looking out for here is regional power rankings are starting to take shape. Of course, we've got 4 teams from the WRL already qualified to the knockout stages. We've got 3 teams left from the WCS trying to join them, 2 from the WCK, 1 team from the Wild Tour, and 1 team from the WNS. So we're starting to see the regional power rankings really favor the Eastern teams.
Yeah, definitely. Again, we knew that the WRL were going to be strong, but we didn't know exactly how strong they were going to be. And now we're seeing them be dominant. Who's left? You got those 3 Southeast Asian squads. Who has impressed you the most here?
For me, it has to be, Flash Wolves coming in today as well. I think, Bruce with Flash Wolves as well, kind of the flexibility that Flash Wolves has as well. But we always came into it, we thought, what was the gap going to be like between China and the rest? And what's the difference between, SEA and the rest as well?
Yeah. Stuart, what was your big takeaway from yesterday's action?
I guess my one is, I have to say that EU is just greater than NA. I guess I have to say it. I mean, I guess I hate to say it, but honestly, Immortals looked really, really good yesterday. I think Hoon coming back into the squad was a big, big boost for this roster. And yeah, they've gone one step ahead from Team Queso. And then obviously Sentinels knocked out Kwangdong Freaks in the play-ins as well, whereas my EU boys didn't do as great. So I have to admit it, in this tournament anyway, I have to say, not overall, but EU is greater than NA. I mean, NA is greater than EU. Oh my God,
He just refuses to accept that. He's trying
it's
to
hard.
say
It's hard to accept it.
His body just didn't let him say NA over EU.
I knew I was going to mess up at least once.
That's all good. All right, and I think the big takeaway I had from yesterday was how much we've seen Kazakhs hop on up into the jungle. Hop on up, you see I did that.
Yeah, a good one.
Yeah, there it is. That's naturally being right there. Just like that, right? But we saw a lot of it from Lamont, but I believe it got picked all except one game where it was banned away. So Kazakhs has really jumped up. When we thought about the jungle pool coming on in, Kazakhs there, but not as dominant as we saw in the play-in stage.
Yeah, we kind of expected Kazakhs to be a high priority pick. Honestly, though, regionally, the pick didn't have a lot of success. We kind of had a feeling it might have been a bait pick, but teams seem to have figured it out here. Kazakhs has a lot of great jungle matchups right now. He's great at securing neutral objectives, which is a big part of the meta. And of course, Kazakhs allows you to play for that side lane.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see what else pops on up today, as 4 teams have already advanced to the knockout stage, and all of them are from the WRL, as we see that bracket there. 1, 2, 3, and 4 for 4. Not only as making it through, but as the #1 seed here, Stuart.
Yeah, #1 seeds at all the WRL teams. I'm looking down the list as well, and I'm thinking, even for all the teams playing today, what one do you want to face out of all of them? It's one of those situations where you just want to skip all of them. Yeah, I think FPX is probably the best out of all of them, and then you think of Nova as well with Long in the jungle. He's a big, pick, and that's a big team as well. Even though, like J Team as well, even coming in as the 5th seed really from China, they're still looking really strong themselves.
Yeah, and they're all individually unique in how they defeat you, but the strength of the WRL has been on full display here. They're all scary opponents, but let's talk about who to watch for today. Who are some of your standout players? Stuart, let's start with you.
Me, I have to go with T1's Jong. I think yesterday he had a really, really solid performance against Leviathan. Didn't die a single time as well. Played the Camille, played the Riven. He looked really, really comfortable. He looked really, really strong. And he said in his interview as well afterwards, after that victory to Leviathan, he said that I am better than Shy and I am going to be able to beat him in today's matchup, which is a big, big statement to make.
I don't know if you remember what happened the last time they played against Team Flash, but okay.
I think it's that kind of winner's mentality, and especially after getting a couple wins under your belt, you get that confidence back on in. But from one Korean player to another, your guy to watch, Luna from roster Y.
Yeah, I think roster-wise, Luna has been a standout player for his team for a number of reasons. He's shown that he's more than capable of just being a Vayne player, a Lucian player. He doesn't need to be the pop-off carry performer. He can play Varus, and he does such an amazing job on it as well. His fundamentals are so solid, and the team does a great job at playing around him as well. I feel like Luna is one of the most well-rounded Dragon Laners we have in the tournament, and he will be a pivotal part of roster Y success today.
Yeah, and you saw highlights there from the man from RRQ as well. Yeah. Chaz has been a beacon of hope here for this Filipino squad that has just been full of life and laughter every time they get on the stage. They have so much fun playing, but don't let the laughter fool you. Chaz has been leading the way for RRQ. And speaking of knockout stages for them to get on through, if you're in Singapore, starting with the quarterfinals on July 1st, make sure to come on down to the Icons Fan Zone at the Marina Bay Sands Convention and Expo Center to watch the live games. It's open an hour before the show each day, and there's tons of free swag, great food, and a chance to get a picture with the actual trophy, guys.
Oh, we're getting closer now. We're getting closer to the situation where we're getting closer to knockouts, closer to the trophies. It's exciting.
You can't touch the trophy though. Just take a look. But you can't touch it.
Again, make sure to head on over to the event. It's going to be a lot of fun, and you're going to meet a lot of your great influencers as well. Let's take a look at the schedule for today's action. Now, coming up first, it's Team Flash versus T1. Then RRQ versus Sengoku Gaming, Omega versus Flash Wolves, and finally, Rolster Y versus Immortals. And that's going to be the big one for me. Thankfully, Stuart's not on the copium anymore because I'm going to need all of it. And reminder, Kangas bet his beard, which he named Old Glory, on Immortals getting out of the group. So make sure you stick around for that one. In the Kangas verse, which Kangas are you most excited to see? What do you think you're going to see here?
I like cowboy hat Kangas. The mustache as well. It's a good look.
I think we're going to get the beard shaven off it today.
Yeah, I think so
Digon,
too.
But
Yeah.
I don't see a chance.
Again, for those of you that don't know, one on the left, that's Kangas now. One in the middle was Kangas during Horizon Cup when he made the original bet. And the one on the right was him paying out that bet as Tribe failed to get out of groups. Will Immortals change it? We'll find out. What is the match that you're most excited to see today, Stuart?
For me, it's Omega against Flash Wolves. I think seeing Flash Wolves yesterday, you know, with Locking coming back into the roster as well, with that flexibility that Flash Wolves have, Omega has already taken down an SEA team. They've already taken down Burium before, so now they have to take the next step up now to try and take down Flash Wolves, which is going to be a harder task, but it's going to be a really, really interesting match to watch.
Omo?
Yeah, I'm also on the Omega versus Flash Wolves hype train. I think that matchup stylistically is going to be very interesting as well. Omega wants to play around Aomin. He's going to have a tough task if Bruce shows his flexibility, goes back down to the Dragon Lane. We saw what him and Eason could do yesterday, and I feel like Omega are not prepared for that.
Well, facing the pressure of elimination is no new feat for Suits, the mid laner from Omega. He says they're ready for what's ahead of them.
Oi, meu nome é Patrick, meu nick é Sweets, eu sou o mid laner da Omega. Eu concordo que foi um jogo apertado, claro que eu tô triste que eu queria ter ganho, mas eu acho que dá pra gente criar confiança de que dá pra jogar bem, vencer e classificar e ir mais longe do que todo mundo esperava. Confiante que dá pra classificar sim, mas eu acredito que esse é um pensamento perigoso de falar que a gente quase venceu do favorito, porque cada jogo é um jogo e não tem como falar que como esse jogo foi quase, vai ser fácil, vão ser fáceis os próximos. Sim, eu acho que a gente teve uma fraqueza bem exposta nessa série e até fácil de arrumar, eu espero. A gente consegue pontuar o que foi, então acho que vai dar pra arrumar sim. Então é ir jogo por jogo e estar preparado de novo pro próximo. Mesmo sem eliminação, a gente acredita muito que o importante é manter o que a gente faz de bom. Não vamos tentar nenhuma loucura, eu acho. A gente está acostumado até em situações assim. A gente jogou o nosso campeonato no Brasil inteiro encarando eliminações a todo momento. A gente até sofreu para sair da fase de grupo, então estar prestes a ser eliminado é uma coisa que a gente está acostumado. Mandar uma mensagem para minha mãe, que ela tá num momento triste, mas ela ficou feliz quando ela viu o nosso jogo, mandou até mensagem sorrindo, então mãe, eu te amo, fica bem. E eu sei que você vai ficar feliz de ver isso.
What a kind boy there. You always love it when you get the shout outs to mom. Also, hi mom, love you too. Right? Yeah, we can do that. All right.
My mom's not watching, it's all good.
Our first match of the day is a rematch from Wednesday. It's Team Flash versus T1. Flash took the first match 2-0, but dropped their next match to Nova to find themselves here facing elimination. Will Team Flash, the #1 seed from the WCS, redeem their high expectations today, Stuart?
I feel like they can. I feel like coming into it, they're going to have the confidence that they won that first series against T1 before, and now coming into it, we're going to have to see how T1 have adapted. Have they learned from their mistakes? Have they learned from the first time these two teams met before? I'm looking at the big, massive jungle matchup. I'm looking at JY versus Zissou. I think that Zissou in the first series, he played really, really well. He was on the Lee Sin, he was playing aggressive, whereas JY was just kind of stuck on the Wukong in the first time these two teams met, so it was really, really difficult for him. But coming into this, we're going to see how Zissou, you can see the highlights here as well, he was popping off on that Lee Sin.
Yeah, I feel like the Shy versus Zhong matchup is going to be a very interesting one too, especially with the words that Zhong has dropped before the matchup begins. I feel like overall, these two teams, it feels to me like Team Flash are stronger, but I can't say I'm not worried because T1 seem to have found their form. They've won a couple matches now. They're ready to go, and it feels like they have a better idea of how they want to approach the game now.
Yeah, that's the thing about this T1 squad that has been, I guess, puzzling to figure out because it feels like they're figuring it out themselves. They came here thinking that their strategy would work, but if there's a team that's evolved the most and had the most ups and downs, but still find themselves here, it is this T1 squad, Stuart.
Yeah, for sure. I think they've definitely grown into the tournament as well. I think at the start, especially when they played against Ricks as well, it was very, very slow. They weren't as confident as what they were yesterday, for example, but I think as the tournament's gone on, they've evolved, they've adapted to the meta as well, and they're definitely looking strong today coming into Team Flash.
Yeah, I know I asked you guys earlier which one would be your most exciting matchup to watch. But I think this one has to be one of them because you made your prediction of the top lane, you made your prediction of the jungle. I think it's the mid lane matchup. I think it's Core and Coyote that have to go head-to-head, and the winner of that one will dictate who's going to have the edge in this game because we know that Coyote is one of the leaders of this squad. Riku broke down the 1.5 minute quadra kill in the WCS earlier, so we know that he is a heartbeat of this team. But Core has been a player that we've heard a lot of potential about. We know that a lot has been spoken about him, but he hasn't had that icons moment, that iconic moment yet. And I think that's what we're waiting for this T1 squad to get over the hump and achieve the greatness that they've all signed up for. In an interview, he said, I'm so proud to be part of T1, proud to be part of this organization. But as much as that sounds good and feels good, he has to start showing it here, Stuart.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he kind of compared himself to Faker in a way as well, you know, from
playing mid lane for
League of
T1.
Legends. Exactly, yeah, they're both playing for T1. He's saying that he wants to step up to how good Faker is in PC League of Legends. He wants to be the Faker of Wild Rift. He hasn't really shown it just yet, but this is now the main time. This is the moment where he has to step up, especially against Coyote.
And we don't quite have one yet, and how poetic would it be? Same organization, same role, very iconic glasses. Step up here for Core. That's kind of the field we're setting up here. So when we think about this matchup, I want to get your pick on like, hey, when we're thinking of first picks and priorities in terms of roles, where do you think our first picks will be landing? Because again, we've had so much of this Yuumi priority. Like we saw a lot of healing priority a couple days ago, and then the Kha'Zix priority yesterday. Yeah. Where do you focus in this specific matchup in terms of like champion pool and picking first or taking away first? And Omo, I will start with you.
You know, Digon, I think you're right. I think this matchup really comes down to Kha'Zix's priority. I think T1 are going to prioritize a Lee ban against Zissou. He looked completely built different on that champion versus anything else he's played so far, and I think that would mean that Kha'Zix then would naturally be the next highest priority champion. And if you look at how T1 have evolved their playstyle as well, I think a lot of that comes down to how JY uses the Kha'Zix play to pressure side lanes together with Zhong. Without Kha'Zix, they won't be as effective, so I think prio on that's going to be high.
So a hard question for you, Stuart, because you're not on stage and coaching yet. If Kha'Zix is the priority, what are some of the answers that the opposite side can start finding?
I think it's hard against Kha'Zix. You either have to be aggressive in the early game, you have to try and shut down that Kha'Zix in the early game to make sure he can't scale up, because when Kha'Zix does scale, does get the evolves as well, it is difficult to shut him down. So you just say to yourself, okay, do we match the late game? Do we maybe pick a Jax ourselves and do we just scale into late game? Or do we go for a more aggressive jungler? You know, the Lee Sin, like you said, will most likely be banned. We're looking at other aggressive junglers. We've seen a little bit of Vi as well. Vi's really good at locking down the Kha'Zix. I think another pick as well is going to be like the Camille. I think for Zhong, the Camille has looked really, really strong. I think the lockdown, then just the ease of execution of Camille and what she can offer to the team is going to be a big pick in the series.
Right, and the flexibility of a Camille. We've kind of started straying away from these flex comps where it's like, all right, we got 3 or 4 way flexes, and now into more like, hey, you know what we're picking? We know what we're picking. Eliminations on the line, so we're going to just try to out-execute you. One more jungler that I think of that kind of popped up recently, the Olaf has started popping in. Not to a ton of success, but again, goes back to that mindset of like being on the early side of the game and trying to close things out. All right, it's time for predictions. Who's moving on to knockouts in this matchup here? Let's go ahead and load those ones up. Oh! All three of us going for Team Flash. Okay, yeah, we set up all of this in terms of, can this T1 squad get informed? Can Core also, evoke the spirit of Faker in the mid lane? We'll see, and then we all go Team Flash. I don't know why.
I've been very high on Team Flash from the beginning. I saw their caliber in the WCS finals, and I feel like this team is just a cut above everyone else that's not a WRL team. I feel like they haven't quite found their 100% form yet in this tournament, but I feel like they won't need it against T1. I think they're just good enough, 70%, 80%. They have enough firepower. They have enough creativity and flexibility as the teams are loving it back there. But I do think it will be a Flash 2-0.
Warm-ups are always a chaotic event on stage, but a lot of fun. Stuart, why did you go with Flash here?
I went for Flash. I feel like they're going to have the confidence, even though they did lose before. I think they're going to have the confidence that they beat T1 before. I think that this series is going to be close, though. We saw last time that the early game was really close, and even when it got to the late game, Team Flash were a little bit overconfident at times. We remember that big massive Fiesta match that we had, where Team Flash had 5 or 6 times to end the game, but they couldn't end the game. So I feel like T1 coming into this, they can do it. They can take a game, but I think it's going to be 2-1.
Yeah. Again, going back to that specific match in game number 2, the last time these guys played, it kind of reminds me of not quite having the macro coaching down as well. It was a lot of these massive gold lead, a lot of team fights, but then the waves weren't synced up, or they weren't able to transition into another objective, or they didn't opt into another objective. Part of that makes me wonder here, Omo, is that just part of being a #1 seed from, arguably coming into it, one of the better regions in...
The second best region, okay? The second best region
second
here.
Best right now,
I think
yeah,
that's
second best right
indisputable, at least for now. We'll have to see after this match. But I feel like, honestly, it always sounds like such a cop-out to say this.
Sure.
But I genuinely think that in Game 2, Team Flash were just having a bit of fun here. And if I'm right, you'll see them prove it today.
See, that's the thing, is that if they do have a bit too much fun, that's where T1 can come out on top. That overconfidence that I spoke about as well. It's like, it's elimination day. You can't have them fun games anymore.
Well, yeah, and I think we've seen teams have fun and kind of showboat a little bit. I can't think of another team that has done that and is still here other than RRQ, who's backed it up time and time again, right? When I think about that, I think of like a Liberty, right? Liberty had a lot of fun, but then they ended up getting knocked out here. I think if Team Flash is one that has to be careful about that, that's another one. I think one more, maybe like Game Lord. I think Game Lord had a lot of fun when they were on stage here, which was great. It was great to see.
While it lasted, for the very short time that it lasted, but yeah, definitely.
All right, final question before we get into the action, so you can think about this one as we have about 2 more minutes left before we get into game number 1. If the WCK wins, right? This is number 3 seed here. What does that say about the WCS #1 seed? Is that an indictment of the whole region,
it means
or is
that Team Flash choked. It means that Team Flash choked. We saw this last year at the Horizon Cup with SBTC. Let me get my excuses out of the way first. Let me set the groundwork just in case it happens again.
Sure.
Last year at the Horizon Cup, SBTC was supposed to be the best team.
They were very hyped.
They choked. That was a complete choke coming out of SBTC. This year, Team Flash, I feel like they have better firepower, better mentalities coming into the game. I don't think it'll be that bad, but I can't say I'm not worried.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you know what it is? I hear a lot of worry in your voice right now. I hear a lot of scared,
Because regional pride is on the line. It's not just Team Flash. It's Team Flash as a representative of the WCS, as the #1 seed as well. A lot of pressure there.
That's a great thing about being from EU now. It's like, we don't have any teams left. I could just sit back and relax and let you lot
want to join the WCS hype train.
Yeah, and if anyone can identify a little bit of nerves, it would be EU Stuart over there. All right, everyone. Our picks are in here on the desk. The players are set, and the final day of group stage is ready to begin. Who's going to make it on through to the knockouts? It's Team Flash versus T1. Icons 2022 starts right now.
Ở cái trận đấu sắp tới thì team Flash tụi em sẽ tự tin 100% để lấy tấm vé để vào vòng 8 đội. Em hy vọng là T1 sẽ cố gắng hết sức để có thể đánh được một trận siêu kinh điển với tụi em.
T1 lost the last matchup against a
후회 없는 경기를 좀 하고 싶어요.
Flash is going to want this even more this time.
이번에는 꼭 이겨드리겠습니다.
T1 all day on the rim.
Đội tuyển đó nên là chuẩn bị một tinh thần cứng đấy. Khi mà đối đầu với tụi em.
Levar o Brasil para os playoffs seria assim o maior sonho que a maioria da torcida queria até agora e a gente chegou tão perto agora e deu para sentir o gostinho já de como seria isso.
Omega 最后一张进8强的门票一定是我们的。
Cuidado então, que se vocês moscarem, vocês tomam um ultimate do Veiga.
This is the power of the #1 seed from Brazil.
They're a really good team. They're the first seed in Korean region, but we take their support down, then we take their backbone.
그래도 아직 해보지 않은 상대이기 때문에 그냥 보는 것만으로 무시를 하신다면 좀 홈코를 다치실 수도 있으니까 조심하시는 게 좋을 것 같아요.
RRQ, they're making it happen. SEA are showing up.
Very confident that we can beat Tango right now. 내일에는 이제 꼭 이제 저희가 졌던 일을 생각하면서 복수심에 불타올라서 복수를 생각하면서 올라가겠습니다.
We will just prove that we are the best team here.
我们会赢过去的，应该是他们的最后一场比赛。
그런 선수는 딱히 없고 5명을 다 이기고 싶어요.
It is time for the final day of group stage, baby. And this means to get a chance to advance to the knockout stage, one more opponent lies for the eventual victor of each of these last 4 matches.
Absolutely incredible stakes, Mark. And I'm glad you clarified. I didn't know what time it was, but it is once again elimination time here at Icons, and we're starting the day with a bang. T1 versus Team Flash. Team Flash, as Des talked about, as Omo talked about quite defensively, the best team out of the WCS. Cover your ears, RRQ fans. On the opposite side, it's T1, who came into here supposed to be one of the weaker teams out of Korea. Turns out the whole Korean region pretty weak. And they are now with the last 2 remaining teams after KDF, who finished higher than them in the standings, went home early.
One of the things
To North America. Woo!
just a little zing just left in there to let it kind of last a little bit. But for Team 1, one of the things that they are looking forward to and banking on in their toughest opponent yet to get to the knockout stage is that they have been leveling up their performance every single matchup that they have gone through. Yes, against Team Flash the first time around, it was a dominant 2-0 from the #1 seed from the WCS. But this time around, T1, every time that they have gone to the back room, had a chat with Coach June, he's able to get them back in shape, and maybe it'll be enough to at least force a fight out of Team Flash.
Yeah, but those are the expectations coming in, right? T1 are definitely coming in here as an underdog. What we've seen so far from them, 2 sides to their map, BDG, who's looked incredible in that AD carry role, Jong, who's looked incredible kind of without any support in that top lane, in that Baron lane role. And those 2 elements have been enough to sometimes scrape past their opponents, but they haven't looked like enough to take on the cohesive rosters we've seen, the likes of Nova Esports, the likes of Team Flash. So, Team Flash, we expect them to come out swinging through the middle of the map, places where T1 have been notably absent. The Death talked about it. This is Coyote's game to win for them, and they're of course going to have the challenge on those 2 side lanes where T1 play very well. Team Flash are ready to meet them.
Yeah, for the WCS fans, they well know that Coyote, it's like a Swiss Army knife, can fit into any role that the team needs him
You
to
fold
be.
out different bits of them.
Exactly. He has shows
He can
he's
stab, he can cut.
He's multifaceted. He can bandage, he can patch up.
I don't think Swiss Army knives can do that.
He's a new brand of Swiss Army knife.
Whoa. Team Flash, do start things off with pretty standard bans. Focus on the enchanters that are so powerful right now. Yuumi and Karma should never see the light of day, and the Camille is kind of their pick of the litter. The Camille, very powerful in the late game, very powerful in Zhong's hands, won't be seeing the light of day. On the opposite side, it's T1. Kind of interesting to me. They got away with banning full target bans here. The removal of Ashe, Senna, very targeted towards the way that Team Flash like to play their AD carries. The Ashe, of course, also picked up by Coyote, but both those picks really good in the backlines, kind of disconnected from the fight and still contributing to the fight. And then, of course, the Lee Sin, one of Zisu's favorites.
T1 on the back end after seeing the Kazakhs go for the also ever reliable Corki. Good for team fights.
What? Corki? One of our drafts, Mark?
For Corki, man, this can still be flexed between Core and BDG. We know that BDG, when he is the one that has a marksman in his hands, he can really ramp up and be a reliable carry in those mid and late game team fights.
Yeah, Corki, one of the most picked champions at this event. And very useful at almost all stages of the game, but I think most critically it indicates that T1 are looking for some team fights. And when you're looking to throw hands, you have the Corki, whose package is really good in fights. You drop kind of this wall of lava, and
massive
who's standing on it gets melted. So it's very good at controlling fights around objectives, places where the enemy team needs to come to you. And that certainly combos pretty well with the other pick of T1 so far. The Jax in the jungle, a late game scaling monk with a staff. He's going to get bigger and bigger as the game goes on until he can bonk people. Pretty much 1v5 a team fight.
Yeah, one of the advantages that you'll have as a Jax versus the Kazakhs, you get to have so much split push pressure if needed to. Your turret taking ability is almost unmatched by any other character in the game.
Can bonk people or turrets with that stat.
It's incredible. And Team Flash, they're answering, oh, you want to go for late game? We're doubling down on the early game, baby. We're slamming the Renekton, we're slamming the Jace.
And the fact that we see both Jace and Renekton here indicates to me that T1 are looking at a little bit more of those picks. They're looking to find those 2v2s, 3v3 skirmishes against T1. Team Flash have the power with these picks so far to do a ton of damage in split-up team fights, but they are going to lose to T1 so far in straight team fights. T1, with the addition of the Shen, also indicate that they would like more of those 5v5 team fights. The Shen is kind of a crutch for macro play, because you can put him in the side lane and he of course can use his ultimate to teleport back to the fight, so you always have free presence on the other side. You can have 4 members of your team looking for a fight, the Shen on the opposite side for free, being able to join the fight when it gets dangerous.
And the fact that T1 are actively turning away from Zhong as a carry, putting him on something that will facilitate other carries on the side of T1, shows that this isn't going to be a Zhong superstar game. This isn't going to be the Zhong that gets a quadra kill on the Camille coming in to clean up a team fight. He is empowering someone like JY, or maybe another carry that might come out from Core if this Corki happens to go to BDG instead.
Yeah, and can I hit you with a theory?
Sure.
I think this Corki might be going to BDG instead.
Yeah.
And Core would, in that case, be playing something a little bit more duelist heavy. Which I would like to see. That's been one of my criticisms. You know, we were talking about Core as this incredibly popular in his region carry, and in his region in the WCK Korea, Core was a very aggressive duelist player, someone who could take over games. But very similarly to the other mid laners we've seen who love those duelist picks, who love to challenge people early, that falters against international competition. Regionally, you can be the best mid laner, you can get free gold just farming the enemy laner. Once you're playing against the best mid laners from every other country in the world, it's harder to get those isolated kills.
You're no longer just straight up skill gapping people.
Yeah.
You have to match them in other ways. You have to beat them
when you
on
test
the macro
into
level.
the charter school and you're no longer the smartest kid in your class.
Dude.
That hit home for approximately 10% of our audience.
It hit home for me. Team Flash rounding out their composition with some long-range back line damage.
Yeah.
Varus teaming well with the Jace.
This might be AD carry pick in the final rotation here for T1 because I don't like Corki Gragas. So that makes me think again this Corki might be shifted over to Core and we might get something else AD carrying. Team Flash, this is what we expect. Ali, in contrast to BDG, does not receive a whole lot of focus in his bottom lane. So when you see the Varus, that's an indicator that Team Flash wants something he can play on very far back. And MT will leave that lane, roam with the rest of the team, Braum works very well with Renekton, who's very also attack focused. So if you get a mark on somebody, the Renekton gets in close range, he slices, he dices, he chops, and somebody gets instantly stunned by the Braum passive.
Just like a fruit. Boom. Orianna
Sure.
locked in for core. This is very much all team fight.
Might be BDG Orianna. I don't know.
I guess it could go either way.
Yeah.
So if BDG is the one that ends up piloting the Orianna, it is a lot easier for Penguin to feel confident to roam outside of the lane, be able to sync up with JY, look for advantages, look for some skirmishes. The thing I'm a little concerned about is...
I've got you.
You're...
Feels weird in Averos, right?
Yeah!
That's where I'm at too, Mark!
And the other thing, too, is that it's Renekton Jace, some of the
True.
most powerful early lane bullies in the game.
That's also true.
And you want to take skirmishes with a Shen Corki?
Yeah. So T1, in those final picks, that Orianna is, like you were referencing, going to struggle in lane. Going to be shorter ranged, going to not quite have enough damage to clear a wave early on, and that means that all of the attention we were talking about from T1 being in teamfights is redoubled. T1 will win the 5v5s. Orianna, great teamfight champion. Corki, great teamfight champion. In that early game, in any time between the teamfights, it is Team Flash's map to run. And that is their challenge. Can Team Flash isolate those fights, stop them from being all-out brawls, and instead get 2v2, 3v3 skirmishes, find players on the sides of the map they can bully. And as long as they can do that, engineer fights that are favored to them, they own the map.
And if you take a look back at Team Flash's dominant grand final victory over Flash Wolves, that was exactly the playbook. Just overwhelmed them during the early game with powerful skirmishes, and by the time Flash Wolves got to the point where they would be comfortable with their mid-late game team fights, they were down 5,000, 6,000 plus gold.
So here we go. Game number 1, Mark, of a best-of-3 series. Winner qualifies for the group stage. Loser goes home.
Not like this, TJ.
Get on an airplane. You're going home.
For T1 to have come so far, it would not be ideal. They want to show more for Korea, who is running out of seeds for the region.
I mean, they lost one of their 3 teams, but those are the expectations for Korea. We expected all 3 WCK teams to continue. It's worth noting as well, T1, one of the very few remaining play-ins teams. Not the best team out of the region, that is to say. They qualified through plans, worked for their slot.
So far, a quiet early game. No incredibly insane playmaking from Team Flash, but with something like a Kha'Zix, you do want a couple more levels before we start seeing some early skirmishes around the Scuttle Crab. Maybe.
So our early picks are going to be, yes, around the Scuttle Crab, but also coming through our jungler for T1. If there is any early action, it will come from JY, trying to find kills early on. We've seen this a lot from Jax. As we mentioned during the draft, he's ate the honey fruit, keeps core alive.
And Coyote even
steals the last fruit.
Yeah,
that's 15 gold, Mark.
Coyote threatening core off of the last honey fruit as well. The expectations that we had in this mid lane matchup, you saw the hype videos as well. Coyote, after the rest of Team Flash having what fans would consider a disappointing performance against Nova Esports, they are ready to show that they deserve to be in the knockout stage.
Yeah, Nova Esports, one of the best teams in the world. And the way they took apart Team Flash, I'll hold this thought. The way they took apart Team Flash was by shutting down Zissou during the early game, which is why I was talking about JY. If JY can take over the game early on Jax, get into lanes and start fights, as we've seen Jax players do. No, he doesn't have a ton of damage early, but he does that big AoE counter-strike, which will stun people and set up for kills. So that's his dream. Get into lanes early, disrupt not only Zissou's own jungling, stop Zissou from, doing this, stealing away gold, getting bigger, but also stop Coyote from feeling like he can control the map and roam out of that mid lane, as he is so good at doing. So far, Mark, not enough. JY sitting in his own jungle trying to reclaim some gold. Zissou's stolen away his rock collection. Coyote has forced core to reset early and has a gold lead in the middle of the map. Yeah, he took his geodes. And then His buddy stole his friend's fruit.
Just trying to pick up the last apple. It's like, hold up. Just snatching it off the top
Guy
of the shelf.
leans over to your plate in a restaurant and says, don't mind if I do.
Hey, I was saving that.
Too bad.
The T1 is playing a very defensive game. And last time that they played against Team Flash, that was how Team Flash were able to just bypass the early game and ensure that T1 had no way to be able to respond.
Aggression here on the bottom side. Good shockwave from BDG. He saves that until the Glacial Fissure is spent. He saves that until Empty is looking for the fight. Spends the shockwave just to pull Ellie and Empty back. The downside, though, is he has no mana now, so BDG has to run. And here comes the rest of Team Flash.
Down an ultimate means that BDG knows there's no way that they can contest the 2v4, even with the explosive cast from Penguin. So it's seeding pressure, and with the turret resistances dropped, Team Flash very clinical on trying to take this turret down as fast as possible.
At the 4-minute mark into your game, the turrets suddenly are much easier to take down. The kind of early game armor they have vanishes. And you can see Team Flash very aware of that. Go for an aggressive play down bottom through Empty. When it works out, the entire team rotates down and takes the turret, does 2 plates worth of damage. That's a lot of gold going over them.
The T1, maybe there was questions about if they had a plan for being able to withstand the early game. They haven't lost first brick yet, but it's already quite the blow from Team Flash as they set up for the Dragon.
First objectives on the board. T1 looking to force their first 5v5. We talked about how good this team is in team fights. That is still true, and they're not down too badly in gold, only about 1,500. So they want to stop this kind of poke game, get into range and start a fight with big stuns, and amped up JY leading the fray. Their targets in the fight, Ellie and Coyote, they want to get onto those backline players and stun them, force them to retreat. T1 are hoping this will happen around these first objectives, so they can reverse this slow bleed of gold that Team Flash are enforcing on them.
One of the things that's nice for T1, they have the package, so they can separate members from T1. They've already secured the Rift Tower on the other side. They have to commit to a fight now. Stand United from Jong is going to keep JY healthy as they all commit. Dragon will be secured by JY, but can they get out? T1, they've got routing off from Zissou, who decides to now go to the mid lane and take advantage of the fact that they cannot defend the mid turret.
So, Drake over to T1, mid turret picked up, first break to Team Flash, and they're going to get more. If you look up in that top lane, that bottom lane, they're both being sieged simultaneously. Shy will step forward here. That's going to be a second turret, very likely, picked up by Team Flash, meaning that the gold lead is exploding. 4,000 gold advantage now over to Team Flash. T1 unable to force the fight.
Jong can't get in range for that taunt. T1 here have to be careful now because that outer turn on the bottom side of the map is going to be Team Flash's next primary objective.
And you can see the difference in the two team philosophies here. T1, a team that is all about that 5v5 team fight. They bring all their forces in to fight that Dragon. Team Flash don't try to take it away from them. They poke, they prod, the Jace and Power and Shock Blasts are going in, dropping the HP and numbers. They almost get JY, but that's a bonus. They don't really need to take the fight there. In fact, that's the worst case scenario for them. So they're poking and trying to make it uncomfortable while they gain control of the rest of the map.
The classic poke and siege composition from Team Flash as T1 getting aggressive under the tower, gets Shy's ultimate out, but now reinforcements from Team Flash are in pursuit. No tower to defend them. It's the Flash committal from Team Flash's support, Empty. Glacial Fissure knocks up all 3, and now the rest of T1
Here comes
are
BDG.
sent asunder. A flash from Penguin still getting stunned as the piercing arrow connects. It's a triple for Shy, looking for more, but BDG buys enough space to get out and trades one back.
Empty, getting too greedy, walks underneath the turret. BDG self-shield the command protect, calling the Orianna Bowl back onto his shoulders, gives him like 10 more HP, and he survives as a result of it. T1 losing a lot of gold there, though.
6,000 as now the deficit for T1. Team Flash have such a great advantage point to work with as we approach the mid game.
And that was the big test for them, because the problem with these pick compositions is that eventually you have to team fight. So during the first 10 minutes of the game, you need to earn enough of a gold lead that you can win the team fight even though you're disadvantaged in it. Team Flash did a great job picking apart the map, and then here they spot an opportunity to hammer some nails into the coffin. Low HP members in the top side, they get an isolated 3v3, and this will start snowballing the gold lead, such that in these future team fights, even though Team Flash have a better composition, or even though T1 have a better composition, Team Flash will have bigger wallets. Look at this. Command Protect. It's literally the amount of HP by which he survives.
Uh-oh. Jong. This is not looking rough. This is looking awful. Oh man, Shy just absolutely destroying him in the 1v1.
Second time he's done that in recent memory. Still shoving in this lane. The advantage of the Renekton into the Shen. You're so big, you clear waves so quickly. If Jong ever teleports away from lane, he's gonna lose like a whole nother turret.
And it's just gonna be the gold lead snowballing even further and further for Team Flash. T1 have to find a way to stop the bleeding, to stop this gold lead from spiraling out of control, but there's no way that they can regain it.
Yeah, because at this point you can see Team Flash are spoiling for a fight, right? They're bringing all 5 members in to steal away the red buff. They're saying, come fight us, I dare you, because they know they win. So T1 needs to do what their composition is not designed to do, and earn back some gold on the map separately, and wait until Team Flash make a mistake through which they can get an advantaged fight. That's the only way to break this kind of gold skew.
Core is able to get some chip damage onto the turret. I don't think it's going to be enough to knock it down, as Shy is here to protect it. Penguin and JY are committed to secure the turret gold on the side of Team 1.
Baby.
But now Team Flash are chasing them down. Good cask from Penguin.
This road's closed. Explosive cask clearing the way. T1, I think, will be able to get away. Good chain of corruption.
PDG still on the run here. There's flashes available from both T1 and Team Flash. Just the pressure alone of Team Flash chasing them all the way to the outer rims of the base is terrifying.
It's like a Mad Max movie. T1 running for their lives through the canyons while shock blasts pursue them. But they do get away with it. You know, heist complete. They got into the bottom lane, they grabbed the turret, used the explosive cast, very good explosive cast from Penguin, who's been a very good support player this tournament. Closes the road, makes sure Team Flash aren't within engagement range. And so T1 get a little bit of gold back. Now, unfortunately...
Does it make up the 6,000? That's the question.
Yeah. I'm doing some quick math. You know, caster math, unreliable. I'm doing some math, though, and no.
Right now, Team Flash have complete control of the mid lane, so there's no way that they can check into the Dragon, and Penguin is on the run. Stand United forced out of Jong. The damage comes through before Jong can join the party. Package is now forced from Core. They're going to try to get a punish right on back, but Shockwave misses. And Shy, don't tell me he gets out of this one. Shy flashing forward, making sure that he can clean up the kill, but Empty with the quick moves. Stand behind me, right back to Ellie, and he's got Coyote in his back pocket to get him out safely.
Team Flash defending T1's side of the map. Managed to win the fight. J-Jung will find the kill on the opposite side, but it's at the cost of the inhibitor as here comes Team Flash.
Oh god. The base is about to be broken open at 11.5 minutes here, TJ.
Stolly CJR leaves behind some honeycrisp, courtesy of Empty.
That feels like BM.
You know what that feels like, BM? Because it 100% is.
We still going though, TJ. Coyote deep into the back line, already eliminating Core. Penguin sure to be next. Just one more shot blast, flashing forward. Coyote will pay for it, but he's ready to style on T1 and show why they are the dominant ones in this series.
Ellie kiting here, JY.
Okay. Wait, hold up. Wait, JY's picking up a lot of kills in these back skirmishes.
He cleaned up the fight around the Baron pit, and now he finds 2 more, shutting down Ellie and Empty. And that's starting to make things scary. T1, through the power of JY, can enable him with Shen, with Orianna, and maybe that's their window into a fight. He's got 10k in the bank, as much as anyone over on Team Flash.
JY, you are suddenly now the hope for T1 at this point. You are the one with the most gold in your back pocket. He's going to find a way to use that to as much use as possible. But an Elder Dragon is spawning in the next 3 minutes, and at that time, if JY is not online as much as he can, we're going to see more stuff like this.
Yeah. Here's Coyote, though, out of position. And Penguin, like, splits the fight. This is the kind of fight you win if you're not down as much gold as you are. Instead, Coyote flashes forward to find the kill, does get caught out, punished for it, but ridiculous stuff. Here's JY saying, this is ridiculous as well. Ellie, why are you standing here? Takes one look at the map.
Jags.
Takes advantage.
Off of that back, he completed his death stance and just bought a straight-up Blade of the Rune King. So JY is actually now, he's in Giga Chad status.
Incredible amount of gold. It's like 4,000 gold off of those kills.
Quite the surplus there. However, Core, that's not the surplus that he was looking for.
No, you can't be walking up to bushes like that. That's mispositioning. That's bad map movement in a way that doesn't get punished unless you're playing against the best teams in the world. But Team Flash know he's in the bottom side. They stack the bush right in front of him.
I love this from JY, though. JY just immediately punishing Coyote, overextending.
They're starting Baron.
This is going to give a Baron opportunity, though, for Team Flash, and there's no one that can compete unless BDG gets a Miracle Shockwave, but the explosive cast, not enough. Zisu's got the smite. Team Flash with the Baron.
I think Jaejong is okay with this. They reckon they can defend here, and the waves are pretty far shoved forward, so Team Flash still with advantage in this game, but this Baron now feels a little dangerous, Mark, because if they don't finish on this Baron push, then T1 are going to scale back into their team fight. So, that timer on the left of your screen, 1:30, is about as much time as Team Flash have to force a major team fight and win.
It doesn't seem like the Elder Dragon is going to be up by the time the Baron buff X. So, for here, Team Flash, this is the moment where they need to use the Baron buff to the most potential. Otherwise, as you said, T1, even though they took the late game team fighting composition and they were kind of getting smacked around in the early game, we're getting to the point where all the early game does not matter anymore.
We're getting there. We're not there yet. The only person who's kind of avoided that early game curse at this point is JY, a little bit BDG. BDG is going to be coming on these team fights, so BDG needs to be protected, JY needs to be enabled. JY looking to get onto those backlines to shut down Coyote and Ellie in particular, who are doing the vast majority of Team Flash's damage. Here we go, one team fight to rule them all. T1 on their last stand, looking for Ellie.
Shockwave connects, half of his HP is rewarded. The rest of T1 are going to need a little bit more to take out this Archer.
And this is scary. Team Flash playing it very well, sieging both remaining inhibitors.
Woo! That's the ultimate out of Zissou. Jong, 50% of his HP is costed, but he's got the fountain to heal back on up. I don't think this will be enough time.
Vulnerable.
Oh, maybe it is. But BDG's back on defense tower duty.
And so the Baron expires at the exact same time as the Elder spawns. Team Flash got one turret in total from that. Not what they were hoping for, but they reckon they can win if only they convert on this Elder. T1 are going to have their best odds so far in this upcoming team fight. Team Flash will have to fight them 5v5.
Package also picked up. If there is a moment, a fight that T1 could win and take back the game, it is now.
It comes down to Core landing a huge package, BDG and JY accessing the backline with their damage. Team Flash, frankly, I'm at the point where I start advising them to avoid this team fight. It is scary. They should be looking to see what they can get done in the side lanes. You see that up top, where Jaejong is being forced to deal with the presence of Coyote.
And it's good awareness from Team Flash to not just hastily engage through the Dragon. They have control of the pit right now. T1 are the ones that are forced to enter. So as long as they just maintain this choke point, they can't get in.
They're waiting for T1 to make a mistake. T1 clearing this so carefully, getting poked at the entire time, but that's doing less damage than ever before this game. Those arrows from Ellie now doing, tenths of JY's HP as opposed to entire halves of it.
Don't leave BDG alone. Zissou's waiting around the corner. It's just the blue buff being stolen away,
Stole
but
the blue buff.
Package has been committed on the top side of the map. They make the pick onto Coyote, and now it's a 5-on-4. And Team Flash don't immediately start the Dragon.
5v4 on the map. Team Flash not on the Elder Dragon. Baron coming up in 8 seconds. T1 have done it, Mark. I don't know what that Shockwave was. That might be a huge mistake. It's going to be down.
Oh, God.
If they force a team fight, it's without the massive Orianna ultimate.
The copium angle is that Team Flash did not see the Shockwave go off.
True.
So they don't know. And as long as T1 just play it cool, Team Flash will start the Dragon.
I think that cancels their team fight. I don't know what happened for BDG. But I don't think they can team fight now without the Shockwave. JY's going to look anyway. They think they have an isolated player.
JY.
It's a trap.
The bait!
Shen!
But he's bringing the Shen with him. Jong onto the backline, but the taunt does not connect onto Ellie. Core follows up. Renekton is golden shy, taking as much as he can. JY's going golden. The GA is popped. Rest to Shy is on the retreat. Teleport is coming in from Coyote here to provide assistance.
Team 5 win for T1, not a clean one. They don't get any kills, but they force Team Flash off of an advantage position, drag them back on the map.
Big thing though for T1, JY, the big carry here, his GA is now gone, so he cannot act as aggressively as he would like to in the next fight.
I didn't consider how fast BDG's Shockwave cooldown is at this point. Maybe he can just do that. Because it's back. You saw that team fight, it's back already.
Yep. T1 still have to deal with how to maneuver around this Elder Dragon that Team Flash still have control over. But you're right, TJ. T1, they're getting closer and closer to the point where they can match them.
And part of that is that Core now has real damage in the backlines of this fight. He is able to provide that sustained burn. And Team Flash know this. They know this game is spiraling out of control. So they're beginning to poke and prod at this Elder, trying to bait T1 into a disadvantaged fight, trying to maybe sneak and see what they can do to change these odds as T1 just continue to run the clock.
T1 finding ways to get back into the river. There's absolutely no vision whatsoever available to them. Chain of Corruptions lands onto BDG, flashing away from a piercing arrow. Could have been BDG's last life in this game. Zissou hopping forward, flashed out, and now the rest of T1, it's the Shockwave that connects onto the back line.
Huge taunt!
Huge taunt onto the front line as well, stunning it up. Shy's GA is the reward for T1, but they have to back off.
They disengaged. Team Flash run the map for this time. They did burn GA, nothing else. Team Flash will start the Elder.
Package is
T1
available.
will be back with the package in this fight. Here comes JY running through the darkness towards this
4,000.
Baron. 4,000 HP.
3,000.
Here we go.
JY is crashing forward. Can he get in range? It is secured by Shy. Team Flash has it. The package is in there. Zissou hopping for his life. Ton of damage from the backside onto T1, but they're still pushing forward. Team Flash walk away with the Elder.
4v5 on the map. Team Flash get the Elder, but they're down a man for 40 seconds. T1 turn immediately towards this Baron.
They have to take it 5-on-3 now. Penguin,
LA!
huge kick onto Ellie.
Shockwave!
Shockwave connects. JY is able to capitalize, and now it's suddenly a 5-on-2. You have to go for the Baron.
Coyote has to contest as well. Here he comes, joined by Zissou. That's enough to scare C1 back for now. Redemption tops the backup. Huge wave of the sidelines. Took the inhibitor during this time. C1 starting the Baron. No! Zoned back by Zissou again.
Tie it. Another
comes
teleport
JY.
coming in. JY is back on the map. And now the rest of T1, they have to position once again for this Baron.
20 seconds on Ellie's respawn, so they still have time to work with. They're looking for the pick onto Zissou, which would make this Baron free. They know, T1 know, if they lose a single team fight at this point, the game is over. But the work they have done to run out this clock means that the same is true for Team Flash now, Mark. This game is 50-50, and it all comes down to a single team fight.
And if T1 can stall enough for the next 30 seconds, JY's GA is coming back up. It seemed like an eternity ago when he made the fight over the Elder Dragon wall, flashing forward onto 4 people with that taunt and Jong delivery system, and now it is back up again.
It is back up again. It is also worth mentioning the Elder Drake that did go over to Team Flash is not nothing. That is a significant buff for them, but it's only going to really matter on 2 members. Shy, who is occupying the front lines, and Zissou, who's jumping in and out of the fight. The bonus regen and the bonus damage will help Zissou a lot. He is one of the few remaining members of this team that is doing consistent damage in the team fights. Everyone else is getting outscaled by time here. C1 do win the team fight by default, and it's going to need to be an incredible play from Team Flash, specifically those 2 players, Shy and Zissou, getting onto the backlines, killing Core, killing BDG in order to win this fight.
And watch how Team Flash now taking their time before they set up for the next objective on the Baron. They have Coyote splitting on the bottom side of the map, forcing Jong to respawn, setting up waves on the top side of the map as well, because that inhibitor being open now means that there's permanent super minions that is calling the attention of Team Flash.
A permanent debuff, which T1's been dealing with for like 10 minutes at this point, Mark. T1, a masterclass in Korean Wild Rift, I must say. They drafted a teamfight comp, didn't have the opportunity to win the teamfights in the mid-game, so they just said, we're going to keep running out the clock, we're going to keep spending time on this Rift until we have a fair team fight, and I think they've done it.
Hold up, Shockwave, it connects onto Ellie. It gets the Proto Belt out. He won't have that available. He still has both Summoner spells up on Flash and Exhaust. T1 looking to capitalize that the next time the ultimate is up.
Team Flash here, the second Vietnamese team to ever grace the international stage. The first one kind of fell apart. SBTC unable to perform up to the expectations of their region at the Horizon Cup. Team Flash potentially the second Vietnamese WCS team to underperform internationally. And you have to wonder at moments like this if they know that.
For Team Flash, you got to keep it cool. Look for opportunities like this. Jong managing to escape barely with his Flash.
JY knows where Zissou is. JY knows where Coyote is, and he is hunting.
He's got Flash.
Speed
He
boost
can
by
look for it,
BDG.
forcing the stasis out. Jong is back in the ring, tags in, stand united. But Zissou gets out with the ultimate. Can't say the same about Coyote, but now look at Team
Push
Flash.
down mid.
They're barreling
Push
down the
down
mid lane.
mid lane.
Stop the
Here comes
recalls.
Ellie.
There's no way. Ellie, he can just take the Nexus as long as he gets time, but T1 gets back
Half
immediately.
HP.
Shy
Shies in.
committing everything. 1000 HP, 700. That's it. Team Flash almost on the brink of a reverse upset. They clinch game one.
What was that game, Mark?
Holy!
Team Flash, where was the aggression we have come to know from this team? It feels like they get out on a technicality. As T1 leave a slip up, and for 1 second there's an open gap. Ellie and Shy spot it, make a beeline down the middle of the map, and steal away what was, to be frank, T1's game to lose.
T1 on the cusp of stealing that game away.
They earned it.
Yeah, they endured everything that Team Flash threw out at them.
You're really gonna give the thumbs up after that game?
Yeah, we had it all under
All
control.
according to plan.
This was part of the script. Don't worry, fans. But I imagine that in the back room, there's gonna definitely be some conversations about, hey guys, we can't let that happen again.
No, man. That was crazy. T1 did an incredible job stalling out that game, buying time for their competition to come online, and the only mistake they made all game was at the very end when they leave that base open, and it is very lucky for Team Flash that Ellie spotted it. It is very lucky for Team Flash that Shy was able to get in there. I think if they aren't both there at exactly the timing they are, T1 win that game.
2 members down, a world of possibilities in that world, but it's okay. Dagon, Omo, and Stuart, can you tell us what the hell just happened?
No one can.
No.
Let me tell you, we had copium yesterday for Stuart. I was going to have some copium today at the end of the day. I didn't know Omo was going to get some copium as well. That was amazing to see Leonard in the back just kind of, oh, Team Flash, they're so bad. And then all of a sudden be like, oh, yeah, that's my Team Flash.
That's my boys. That's my boys.
Like, never in doubt, never in doubt.
I knew you had it in you.
That was scary, though.
All right, I mean, well, let's start with the draft. It started at the top there. The Kazakhs priority hopped on up, and we saw it. And, you brought it up. Zissou didn't really have too much.
He did nothing,
really,
Dagon.
agency in this game.
Yeah, all he was a rocket that you would point at neutral objectives, and he would go there and he would isolate it and he would kill neutral objectives. That was his entire job this game. He did nothing to champions. He did nothing to the waves. It was a rough game from Zissou, and honestly, ever since he played long, he hasn't quite been the same player, has he? Maybe he kind of got mentally broken. It's like the Batman and Bane scene. He got his back shattered by Long, and now he's kind of having a hard time, honestly.
I was bored of the darkness.
Well, look at Zissou right now on your screen. He does not look like he's happy with his performance, I'll be frank with you.
I mean, I'd rather be in that room than the other room.
Well, yes.
A win's a win.
Yeah,
win.
I will say the T1 squad played to their composition. TJ had outlined it pretty well. It's all about how long can you endure, how long can you survive until this team composition comes online with the Jags, with the Corki. And on the opposite side, one thing that we noted, it was all AD here, Stuart, for Team Flash.
Yeah, exactly, and it got to a point where Jong was starting to build a lot of armor. He's starting to get to the unkillable point. Jax had the death stance as well. Gragas was building tank as well, so you had a lot of tanky members on the side of T1, and as you mentioned, it was just about the scaling for T1. They were trying to play a bit of a stalling early game where they took the early dragon, but they lost the 2 towers for it in the early game, and Team Flash were trying their best to try and accelerate their lead, to keep pushing and pushing and pushing. And they did, and eventually them getting them 2 inhibitor towers at the start, really at the start of the game, I call it, in the middle of the game, when they got that early Baron, was really where that came, you know, really how they got that victory.
And I think if we're talking about the draft as well, I do want to point out that I actually do like Team Flash's draft. It is a 4 AD draft. I didn't like the Braum pick, but other than that, the other 4 picks, that's a lot of power right there. Varus, Jace, Renekton, you saw how they played out the first Dragon fight, the first objective spawns. They nearly got both sets of objectives, nearly killed JY as well. But it seems that after that timing window passed, Team Flash just kind of got a bit lost. If not for Shy's amazing performance, they genuinely might have lost this game.
Yeah, to be fair, T1 were on the back foot for most of that game. Again, the game plan was very clear. It was, hey, we'd rather take the stats later on from the Drake from the Dragon that will stack up as we continue to scale over Herald, over other objectives. But you take a look at that mountain that T1 had to climb and then come back down and then unfortunately fall a little short here. It felt like, as you said, Team Flash had a draft that they could execute, had the power, and it played out that way, except towards ending the game. T1 did such a great job defending their towers, holding on to at least one, and until eventually the inhib did break, that led to this TP play here. We saw a couple of sombreros, as we like to call it, from Orianna, BDG, whiffing a couple of those, one off screen where no one saw from Team Flash, one of the team fight earlier. Maybe a couple of those would have helped T1 snowball it, and thank goodness for Team Flash it didn't happen. Ellie had to get the proto belt to continue to create space for himself, but there was a lot of intricacy as the game got later. It feels a lot of the time when we get to late game situations here in Icons, it feels like teams haven't practiced it as much, but both, or at least T1 felt a little bit more comfortable as a unit, whereas Team Flash, it felt like they were making individual highlight plays in this late game.
And I think that's kind of to do with the different regions as well. I feel like WCK is definitely a slower region than the WCS. You know, Team Flash like to play sometimes these aggressive styles. They like to go for early plays and try and get an early goal lead, so then they can feel a lot more comfortable and they can accelerate that lead, and then they can go into the mid and late game with that gold lead, which is what they did in this game. You know, like I mentioned, they got the 2 early towers, then they tried to play around the top side of the map and they got a few picks. But like you said, you got to the point of the game where it felt like Team Flash kind of ran out of ideas in a way, and they just allowed T1 to scale, to sit back, to relax. And it got to a point where, you know, we thought that T1 actually had an opportunity to come back, but it was one little play in that bot side where all 5 members were roaming all the way down. They tried to get the pick onto, I believe it was, I can't remember who it was, I think it might have been on Coyote in a bot side, and then it just allowed Shy to, you know, basically end the game in the base.
Yeah, it did feel like Team Flash were getting desperate for a while there. You saw a point where Zissou started off the Baron all by himself. The team seemed a bit disconnected, but what kept them in the game, what saved them at the end of the day, was their willingness to just execute on a 1-3-1. And it was a pretty good 1-3-1 at that. Coyote was definitely the man of the hour. He created so much pressure, nearly solo killed Jong, forced the rest of T1 to respond, and that gave the opening for the rest of Team Flash to just run down mid and end the game. I like that the killer instinct's still there.
It actually makes a little bit of sense here where the all AD composition is scary if you're 5v5, because then you'll have that tanky front line in the Gragas to go ahead and soak up a lot of the damage. But if you're isolated, you still have a lot of that power, and generally those carries aren't necessarily building defensive items yet. You know, at 4 items they should, but we've seen a lot of losing to Boris here, the shopkeeper, of just buying some things because you're in autopilot and you're not used to games going that late and optimizing your build path here. So again, T1, they've got to feel good about it, but they are down to their final loss here.
They got one more loss and that's it. That's all it takes really for Team Flash now. One more win for them and they'll make it through to the knockouts, and T1 will have to unfortunately head back home. I feel like T1, you know, going into shortly the second draft as well, I feel like their draft, you know, wasn't too bad. I think their draft was actually pretty good. I think they just got a little bit too far behind in that early game, and they gave a little bit too much respect over to Team Flash as well, which gave them that little bit of a lead. But this is like the T1 that we know. They just sit back, they scale, they've done the same in play-ins, they've done the same in group stage as well. We've seen this T1 playstyle over and over again, but the problem is that when you come up against better teams like Team Flash, then they know how to kind of take advantage of you sitting back, and they'll just get as many advantages as they can.
Yeah, they did a good job holding on to the game, that's for sure. They used their scaling well, but you had to give up the early game because Flash had too much power. That's a rough situation to put yourself in. So if you go into the next game, what then is your solution? You need to draw some form of power somewhere on the map. You have a Shan, that's not a lane you attack. You have a Jax, he's not really proactive in the early game. Your mid and dragon lane, it's gonna be cocky Orianna. Where on the map exactly are you attacking? You don't have an option to play around. And I feel like if you're on your last life here, maybe consider just going back to the Jong Riven. Maybe give yourself somewhere you can attack around.
Right. I think the Riven got kind of at least pushed back by the Jace pick, right? It was like, that feels like it'd be really pretty rough. We can also see Core go back to Ahri, one of the champs that he's known for. I mean, you kind of feel for T1 if you're a T1 fan because you did your game plan. It just, didn't pan out. It was a great play by Flash to execute their lead at the last couple of seconds there and end the game with a back door. All right, game number 2. Do or die time. Will Flash close this one out? Does T1's run end here, or will they run it back for game number 3? All three of us think at least T-Flash will take care of business, but after that game, like,
You want to change your prediction here? Do you have faith?
Do I faith? Do I want to change a prediction into the team that still needs to win 2 games?
Maybe they do it, Digon.
This series does feel reminiscent of Liberty Sentinels, right? Sentinels came out, they had themselves one hell of a game, number 1 in the elimination match, but Liberty came back, won it with the back door.
Yep.
Game 2, they came out flat and just got bodied. Like, part of me wonders, did the T1 train station leave without all the carts on it?
Well,
I guess we'll see.
It seems like at least for this game, T1 are going to change up their game plan a bit. They pick blue side. That sets them up for a potential Kha'Zix first pick. The amount of one to snatch Jet onto JY. And with the Kha'Zix, we know then Jong likes to play the Riven because that's the combo we keep talking about. You play side lanes. If Shy ever shows, if Coyote ever shows, Riven and Kha'Zix are flashing in your face and you can't control the side lanes, which was a big part of how TF won the last game. So maybe Kha'Zix Prio can be the difference maker for T1 here.
Yeah, Team Flash had the opportunity to take that one away. Something that's left up. Okay, good.
Kha'Zix.
I was going to mention that as well.
I was like, holy moly.
Yeah, I was going to mention the Yuumi as well. But, I mean, it could be a Kha'Zix first pick, and there we go. We get to a point of the meta where Kha'Zix is a first pick, which is different, which is what I like to see from tournaments. Is like, you see from the playing stage that there was a meta where it was like Lucian first pick. There was this crazy high priority. Now the teams have adapted. Now we've gone into a Kha'Zix first pick priority. It's crazy how within the space of a week, things can change so much.
Yeah, everyone had enough of Lucian. Lucian's just going on through right here. Unless TF pick it right here. No, okay. So what I like about this for T1, or just for game 2 in general, is that we are going to get a different play style. Oh, okay.
I like this.
Okay.
Whatever you can do, we can do better.
Yeah. Flash are just like,
does Team Flash need to know this is a best of 3 series? Like, they're not going to play T1 again. Mental booming them doesn't lead to anything. They just need the win.
The mental boom them.
They need the confidence as well. I think Team Flash is a team that plays very well with confidence. Hopefully they can get that this game, especially if they were to make it to the knockouts, because it's too early to say. But this does set T1 up for Riven, Kha'Zix, Singe. That's a good trio. We've seen them bully Shens in the side lane with this combo before. Maybe T1 want to go Riven here. It's going to get banned, I think, if you don't.
The Jace is also open as well. Jace is another, I think Coyote had a really, really good performance on the Jace, and I think Jace as a champion overall is one of, if not the strongest champions right now in terms of the solo lanes, but T1 go for the Singed instead, but they can still put it on Jong's hands. I don't think we've seen Jong play Jace just yet, if I remember correctly, but it's still a possibility. They go for the Gragas instead.
Well, this is interesting. So what's going to be the pick right now for Team Flash? Varus is not a bad angle. Jace is possible as well, but I feel like you would want to hold one of your top side for 5th pick here. MT and Ellie are not really the lane you usually attack, so I think you want to show one of their picks here and then say 5th pick for Coyote. Let's see if that's what he has opted to do, though. But he does know his matchup. Yeah. But you gotta keep in mind, Coyote is not the only Ashe player on this team. When Ellie was the mid laner for Team Flash, he also played Ashe mid. This is a tech they've used for a very long time. So it would not be surprising if Ellie were to play Ashe Dragon Lane this game as well.
Yeah, but just the fact that it is a multi-flex here, leading to
Flex Ashe.
Yeah.
What a world we live in.
The Enchanted Crystal Arrows have been game-breaking throughout icons by the best Ashe players that we've had. And we'll get to see Team Flash pilot it. Who will it be? We don't know, but we know it'll be on their side as ban phase number 2 coming along. Varus and Renekton taken away, so Team Flash putting some priority there on the Dragon lane. You know what's open and untouched? All of a sudden lost priority. Ziggs. Ziggs is there.
Yeah, Ziggs is there, but Ziggs has the same problems with the matchup into Ashe as he does with Varus. I feel like that's why TF banned away the Varus. That, to me, kind of signals the possibility of Ashe going down to Dragon lane. Those are the two strongest laners in the bot lane. You get rid of one, you have the other one. No matter what the matchup plays out, Team Flash are going to have a lead in the Dragon lane, which is good because your top side's going to be weak. It's Shan.
And I feel like because Team Flash have that red side now, they can leave it to last pick. You know, they can pick their support here.
Yeah, that's Lux.
They...
That's a flex still, right? That could be support. That could be Dragon lane. That
It's been a long, long time since we've seen a Lux.
It might even be Ashe, Lux mid, to be honest. With Team Flash, I wouldn't put it past them.
I think it might be Lux mid and Ashe duo lane, which we've actually seen. It was a Brazilian team that run this comp. I think it might have been Liberty.
I think it was
went
Liberty.
for, Lux mid, Ashe, and it's just all about the pick comp. You use the Ashe Enchanted Crystal Arrow, then you follow that up afterwards with the Light Binding as well from the Lux, and it's just that chain CC that you give.
Hey.
And there's a Riven that
They
you mentioned
didn't
as well.
ban the Riven. That's pretty interesting. TF not really respecting that pick. They opted to ban Renekton instead of Riven. That's an interesting one. Let's see if it comes back to bite them.
All the particles of the broken blade on stage, and they'll need to leave it there. And yep, there it is, the Ziggs. So as you said, opting into what could be a difficult matchup. We don't know yet, right? Again, not normally seeing Lux at support. Seen it more at the Dragon lane.
I genuinely feel like you take a mid counter pick into Cinch or Coyote here and play Lux Ashe bot lane. I feel like that would be so strong here.
That's crazy. That'd be the first time we've seen Lux
It
bot
would.
lane.
Oh, I have my hopes up.
More aggression. This is more aggression. But Alistar pick's quite good though, because I feel like at the moment BDG might have a fairly decent time in the Dragon lane, because as well, especially mid and late game as well. Because like, who on the side of Team Flash after you actually can get onto BDG? You know, it has to be the Alistar and it has to be the Jax, because you have Ashe and Lux. They're more to do with long range. They're sitting in the back line. So it's all eyes really in this game on Empty and Zissou to try and get on the Ziggs. If not, then BDG is going to be able to do a lot of damage.
Omo, closing thoughts here.
Some quick spark notes. A triple global coming in from the side of Team Flash. You have a lot of catch potential, they have a lot of engage potential, and shielding to back up the Jax. It's a well-rounded comp. They'll look for picks. T1, they want him to do the same thing, and they have good side lane as well. Clash, it's the same style, so let's see who does it better.
Scaling
Right,
time.
it's scaling with the Ziggs. Will they be able to get something going with the Kazakhs? Let's find out. Game number 2, T1's backs along the wall. Will they win? Let's find out.
Bam, Dagon. We are finding out in this next game because Team Flash.
Mark,
What's
let
up?
me tell you something about myself.
Okay.
I'd love to find out.
Find out what?
Anything, man.
Where are we going with this?
Nowhere. Very obviously. that bit crashed. Absolutely nowhere, Mark. I was kind of hoping it would be like funny,
Oh. I feel like you just invited me onto a train.
Sure.
And I was like, okay, well, where are we going on this train? And you said, I don't know. Pick one. I'm like, I don't want to pick.
Critically, not how trains work, so the analogy is perfect. Welcome to game number 2. As Dagon said, T1 are up against the wall. Will they win? We'll find out. Team Flash 1 win away from advancing to the group stage.
And you were talking to me as the draft phase was going
What?
on.
I was?
Yeah. TJ, we can acknowledge that casters
Okay.
do talk to each other before the game starts.
I thought it was like the teachers out of school thing.
How we're just
When
like,
you see your
we go
casters
back to-
talking in the supermarket and you're like, oh, what's this?
wait, you're out of your coffin? You do human things, Adam.
T1, as the spark notes from Omo came in. Very solid frontline engage, much more modular than last game. Like, you can kind of break it down on the same strategies as last game. Very, very solid team fight from T1. They want to catch 5v5s, but in comparison to last game, they can do the 3v3, 2v2 thing all right. They're flexible.
Yep.
They're down for whatever.
I think
And
the word you said was modular. I really like that.
Ooh, I like that.
You said it.
That's why. T1, very good at the 2v2s and 3v3s because any combination of their players can take a fight. Team Flash, on the other hand, need a very specific combination of players in order to win a fight or a pick or a skirmish. But here's the thing, Mark. It's available to order anywhere on the map.
Correct. It is global, and you can do it at any point, at any time.
Pull out your smartphone and say, I want an Ashe arrow in this top lane stat. and it will land. The Shen can also teleport in, although it'd be a little weird to teleport into the top lane, but the Shen can teleport into the fight as well. And of course, the final spark can go across the map immediately behind the Ash Arrow. So, if everything lands, you can instantly have essentially a 3v anything in any lane at any time.
I can imagine Zissou, upon hitting level 5, checking his map, checking his stats, being like, all right, guys, I'm calling it a tactical. Boom, top lane. Coordinates, 13, 0, 45. Target, John.
So this is really good. I was kind of going for, I'm a 5-star Ash Arrow driver. You know, what's your rating? It's kind of where I was going.
Ooh! He flashed it, Mark!
I was almost a hit and run.
Sure. So this is immediately where the arrows are going to go at the start of the game because you have Ellie able to follow up. And kind of the dream is that the Ash Arrow lands, you hit it with the light binding, you get a kill. BDG burns his flash to avoid it, which is not great for T1. Obviously better than being instantly killed, but Coyote's arrow will be up before BDG's flash is even a third backup.
JY is coming in to respond, saying, hey, I know that my Dragon Laner is down to flash. I want him to be able to push in this wave safely.
That's how they get you. You're never safe. This summer, Coyote's arrow is coming to a theater near you.
A new Jordan Peele horror film.
True. Coyote won't have access to that bottom lane for a moment because BDG has reset. Very likely knowing that Arrow is back up, but also knowing that he's out of mana. There's the Hawk shot to try and find him. Catches out JY.
It's good information for Team Flash. As a jungler with an Ashe on my side, I always love the ability of hawk-shotting the enemy jungler's camps. It's like, okay, I can now path my rotation either away if I want to avoid JY, or towards him and look for the invade. And if you have Empty already on the top side of the map, if they feel bold, you can contest him at the blue buff.
And this really is the promise of Empty. An Empty promise. Ellie will never have a friend. The Empty promise is that he locked in support, and he's never going to be in that duo lane. And we didn't see too much in that last game, which was kind of a flank, because frankly, Team Flash looked way less aggressive than they ought to in that last game, and they're looking a little slow this game as well. The Team Flash that we saw regionally would be popping these arrows pretty much on cooldown, trying to find kills. They're playing very respectfully of T1, which is how that last game got so wild. So I want to see more of the aggression from Empty, more of the roaming from Empty, leaving Ellie in lane, trusting Ellie to handle his own affairs, and playing through wherever Coyote wants to send an arrow. Right now, it's Dragon time!
Next 15 seconds here. Already Team 1 making moves to set up for at least bottom objective vision control. And now they're making their way to the mid lane so that they can bounce back between both places.
Normally, I'm like, do you want the Rift Herald? Do you want the Drake? You know, it's down to preference. It's an Infernal Drake, so the better objective here is the Infernal Drake. And you can see T1 settling for the Rift Herald. They're doing that because they know they lose the team fight right now. They know that the Ash Arrow, the layered CC, is really devastating during the early game. So they're instead focusing on this.
It is 3-1 currently on the top side of the map. But it's a Crystal Enchanted Arrow from Coyote. Empty can almost capitalize the final spark.
They tried to knock him into the final spark.
Oh,
he tried to headbutt him into the final spark. That might be the sickest thing I've ever seen, Mark, and it didn't even work.
I don't know whether to believe that or not.
That was definitely what Empty was trying to do. I don't know how it was planned. It might have just been Empty trying to make the best of a missed final spark, or it might have been the game plan all along. I have no clue.
Yeah, my initial reaction was definitely Empty going for a combo and missing the pulverize, but you know, I'm willing to see the point and believe in Team Flash going for such a crazy setup.
Empty doesn't miss pulverizes. I think he was trying to land the combo because final spark probably kills there.
Yeah.
We saw an attempted dive in the bottom lane. Very good movement by Core. He flashed over the top of Zissou's engage. Very Matador-like. And so nothing happened from it. Team Flash unable to find picks during the early game. In fact, having to play defense against T1. A very good sign for T1.
The Rift Herald hasn't been used yet. Baron lane turret has already been chunked out. Shy and Empty getting at least one plate off this tower. Good Mega Inferno Bomb from BDG, clearing out the wave. Jong just getting into the face of Shy, chunking him to about 50% HP. You have 4 members from Team Flash supporting the top lane siege.
Mega Inferno Bomb, T1's global ability. Get that wave out of here.
Oh, hey TJ, it's happening.
Is it Rift Herald time?
It's a WCK Rift Herald.
WCK Rift Herald? I don't, what happened to me? The WCK Rift Herald from a WCK team? Mark?
Would you have ever expected it?
I don't know, judging by the way I said it, no. The WCK Rift Herald is, of course, the very WCK specific strategy of summoning a Rift Herald, letting it crash, taking the first 2 plates. I will note that's not actually inefficient in Wild Rift. You don't get any more gold for the final plate than you do for the first 2 plates, so you might as well do it. It gets you gold on command. Other regions, though, prefer to force the entire turret take because it gives them control of the map. T1 did get an entire turret take, it just wasn't in the mid lane. They grabbed it up top.
That's why I don't feel as bad as a WCK Rift Herald, because a lot of the time doing prep.
Now, this is something we talked about on the desk, but the WNS Rift Herald is actually a whole different strategy. That's where you summon the Rift Herald and it gets 0 plates.
Damn.
Because it dies before it crashes.
Oh, well, BDG is far away
Kinda
enough
flashed in a straight line
that
so that the arrow still hit him. Kind of flash in any other direction and you're probably good there.
Yeah, at least he was far away
Sure.
enough that Team Flash couldn't capitalize on it.
It really is just a burn your flash button, though.
Shy shouldn't be in much danger, still has the flash,
Ooh,
casually sidestepping the
that.
explosive cast.
He knew it was coming, stepped closer to Penguin, said, I know exactly what a Gragas gank is built out of, and I don't want it in my food.
Sisu helping Shy clear out the minion wave here. Once again, we are in the slow state of a game that we weren't expecting, at least from Team Flash.
Yeah, this is really defensive from Team Flash. This is the Team Flash that fell apart versus Nova Esports that we're seeing here.
Okay, this time, Ellie
Light binding.
knows that he has no flash.
What
Just makes
HP?
one more auto attack.
He's gone!
First blood from Team Flash, and now the rest of the reinforcements are coming in hot. Stand United gives Ellie the extra shield and tells JY back off.
That's the wombo combo, but first time we've seen it pretty late in the game.
Oh, Shy flashing forward with the taunt. Doesn't connect it on the JY, but it's enough pressure to control and guarantee the mid lane tower.
Traded, though, opposite side of the map. Core will grab a turret. That's the bottom lane tier 1, so T1 stay even. Team Flash need to keep this trade going, needs to keep this rolling in order to get an advantage
pressing the gate.
on the map. And there it is.
Yeah. Gas on the accelerator. Team Flash making sure that they took as much as they could within that 1 kill off of BDG.
Good to see. They had to keep trading. They had to keep matching C1. The Rift Herald is them keeping trading and is them earning an advantage off of the pick eventually. Team Flash need to get aggressive with this mid turret down as well. I want to see them trying to steal away gold from T1. This Team Flash still playing really defensively. That's the first time we've seen the entire wombo combo executed in sequence. And it worked. It looks really good. Begs the question, why did it take so long?
Well, they had to wait and get BDG's flash out, guaranteed.
They sure did do that.
Combo guaranteed the lockdown. Team Flash now trying to get their way into this Dragon Pit. JY starts it up. Penguin already dispersing members of Team Flash in that chokehold. And Zisu's around the corner.
T1 need a fight here, but they can win it. BDG's damage will be online.
What?
Stolen!
Empty! How did he steal the dragon?
I think it was an auto attack.
No way! And now T1, this fight is all erupted into chaos. Jong trying to save it, but Empty on the support line duty coming in after stealing the dragon, stopping Jong in his tracks. Absolute disaster for T1.
That was either an auto attack or the AoE pulse from his third ability. And it was comboed with the arrow, because the arrow does AoE damage, so Coyote hit somebody else, stunned out their damage on the dragon, did an extra bit of burst, and Empty got the final tick. An absolute disaster for T1 is for sure.
Team Flash fully pressing forward. It seems that T1 have just lost all control. And Zissou goes a little too far forward, getting a little ahead of himself. T1 gracious enough to take a trade back.
Baited in, and that's a positive trade for T1.
Coca-Cola pop-off time. Check it out, TJ.
Okay, so 90 HP, 70 HP. No, it's before the arrow hits. Empty just gets it. That's crazy, man.
Yeah, I didn't even see if JY didn't have his smite.
It must have been like a pulverize or something, because the auto attack's not doing 70, 50 HP there.
It just seems so bizarre for and you see the frustration on JY right there, knowing that should not happen.
Well, to be fair, no, it shouldn't. That is a little embarrassing for T1. And it will cost them dearly, not only, of course, the second dragon in the game, but also a team fight, one they needed. They'll force this here instead.
Well, T1 are now forced to pump the gas. They need to get back in this game. Jong is leading the charge already, answered back by Zissou, and now damage is coming back through from
BDG.
Ellie, flashing forward, but it is JY with the resets, and the rest of T1 supporting their jungler, even in the aftermath of the dragon. They are right back in this game.
Shy tried to use the Stand United to get into the fight. His target got burned down by an explosive cask, so he's trapped on the outside of the fight. A 4v5 taken by Team Flash. Nay, a 3v5 as the first player dies. And a positive one for T1 now as the Baron spawns.
Whoa, and T1 say, let's do it. Right now, we're burning it down as fast as possible. They're doing a great job of it. 7,000, 6,000, but teleports are coming in. Shy is buying as much time as he can. Oh man, Coyote takes out JY. It has gone from pretty good to really bad for T1. Team Flash capitalize. They recognize that T1 were looking for everything, but Team Flash said, no, you can't have everything. You gotta slow down. We're the ones in control.
And a very aggressive play by Team Flash. The entire team walks into the Baron pit one by one, but they've got the teleports to make it work. The lead is Shy, who can take all that damage to the forehead, who can slow down the fight. Coyote spends hookshot, then arrow as soon as he can, and the combination buys so much time, gets those early kills. T1 have no way to finish the Baron and have to reset. Baron now held by C1. Check out this replay. Here it is again. Woo! Full commit in. Tanky Boy can take those hits. The arrow stalls out Penguin's retreat, does extra damage to BDG, and it's a final spark across the map, cutting off the choke point, ensuring the kill on BDG that wins all the damage from this fight. As Team Flash clean it up, taking advantage of the low health bars as that Baron had already cooked various members of T1.
An ambitious move from T1. Definitely the confidence boost from the fight prior, but I feel like it was a moment that they needed to calm down and wait for resets.
And now Baron in hand, Team Flash are sieging. They want at least an inhibitor. They also want to force these fights because this is one of the best chances they'll get all game. And they know it. T1 are going to try and stall out like they did last time.
Team Flash pressing on all fronts. The Baron and Powered Minions chunking the turrets super easily. Already mid inhibitors gone. Shy, Zissou, and Ellie pushing through the bottom side of the map. Explosive cast sends them all astray. Empty once again with a powerful knock-up. And Team Flash.
There it is.
This time around, all three inhibitors have been taken in one Baron push. And do they have enough strength to close up the game right here, right now?
Yeah, they do, Mark. Team Flash finish game number 2.
Team Flash doing everything right by the book this time around. Team Flash showing why they are the #1 seed for the WCS, and they will advance to the knockout stage.
That, of course, means T1 are eliminated 2-0, though that would not tell you the whole story. A better look for them in game number 1 and game 2, despite an ambitious team fight, one that looked good for them in the top lane. They got maybe nervous, forced the Baron fight, and things spiraled out of control. A much-needed win for Team Flash given over to them.
You can see that in the aftermath of the game, Team Flash, while being gracious in victory, it's not an elated victory. They knew that the expectations were for them to win it. And after game 1...
Check your hair.
Gotta make sure, hey, am I still sweating from game 1?
True. After that game 1, who knows what your hair is doing. Team Flash take a selfie, and it's got to be one that promises work ahead. They are the #1 seed from, as our friend Leonard said, the second best region in the world. And they got a much-needed win here to prove they're contenders for the championship. Now the work begins as they advance into the knockout stage.
And if you go back to their series against Nova Esports, one of the tournament
I wouldn't
favorites.
recommend that. You're going to give Leonard a hard time.
Team Flash, whether in the aftermath of that series against T1, puts them back in a form that would make fans feel confident that can take on Nova Esports or any of the other contenders currently in the knockout stage remains to be seen.
And I think as you're looking at T1 in their own post-game lobby, you have to think about their expectations coming in. Is this far enough? I would say so. I think a T1 fan can be quite happy with the way they performed. Number 3 seeded team out of Korea, out of the WCK, eliminated only by one of the best teams in the world and in very narrow fashion.
Yeah, and you can look back at game 1 and say, hey, in a moment where Team Flash showed maybe lack of aggression, lack of respect to close out the game early on, T1 played to their strengths and almost had them at the end of game.
Yeah, I would even say it didn't look like T1 were like doing anything crazy. It felt like they were playing well enough, aggressively enough, controlled enough. The Team Flash didn't know how to get out. And there was some panic. They do figure it out in game number 2, though.
Yeah, they got it all dialed back in. Team 1 will be sent home as Team Flash will advance to the knockout stage. And we're going to throw it back over to Degon, Omo, and Stuart to break down the series and the implications now in the playoffs.
Thank you very much, gents. And as you said, the number 1 seed from the WCS has progressed to the knockout stage. We booked the first ticket. The first ticket has been done. And
not even close.
Yeah?
We've got 2 more coming.
I wish do we have the footage of the caster cams in game number 1? I don't think...
The tension was there. The tension was there.
Easy as we take a look with Team Flash, a victorious walk with the camera, the selfie stick, and you know, they're looking calm and comfortable now, but there was a couple of times in that game where it was a little tense.
Yeah, before the Baron flip as well, T1 felt like they nearly turned the game around, finding such good teamfight opportunities time and time again. Of course, T1 do bow out of the tournament with this loss, but I want to compliment them. I feel like they had such great growth and improvement across the course of Icons.
Yeah, for sure, definitely. I definitely agree with that. I think the growth from when they first started in play-ins against Ricks to where they come now to nearly taking down Team Flash. I think both them games, they had opportunities to get into it, but I think, like you said, that Baron flip, I think, was the big one that kind of destroyed it, really, for T1.
Yeah, I mean, two heartbreaking calls there. The Baron flip at the backdoor in game number 1 as we follow along with the flash in a line. That's always fun, as BDG was just constantly under pressure by the side laning Ash, and that one leading to a death. But it was great pressure by Coyote, but I think it was the play, the Alistair right here. Oh my goodness, Empty coming in and pulverizing that one to take it for the squad.
Yeah, just really great usage of the combos that they've drafted, right? You have the Shan riding in on the Jax, you've got the long-range artillery through the Ashe, through the Lux, and of course Alistair to start the fights off after that. TF clearly understand their team comps very well. They did a good job with the poke comp last game before kind of faltering in the mid-game. Same problem this game, and I feel like that's something that Team Flash need to keep in mind going forward into the knockouts. Mid-game is kind of where they start slipping up. You can't make these mistakes against a WRL team.
Yeah, for sure. I think mid and late game has definitely looked a little bit shaky for Team Flash. I feel like both these early games and both these games were like very, very slow. There wasn't really too much happening. There were just trades happening and objectives in towers and everything. But when it got to the mid and late game, you feel like Team Flash, I feel like micro-wise they're better than T1, but like in terms of macro, the macro wasn't as clean as what we saw during the WCS.
Yeah, and I don't feel like T1 did anything too crazy, too creative, strategically creative to lead to those picks. So it is something to note here for Team Flash moving forward, is T1 did decide to go aggressive. They did force past the Alistair onto the Ashe, into the Jax, as you saw right before this Baron flip. So good on T1 recognizing, hey, we don't have to play as passive as our last composition, but then just too aggressive, maybe thinking that they're the ones that are on the timer, even though they have the Ziggs and they have the Kazakhs. I'm not sure what the communication was there at that time. I know that the Jax was very fed at that time, but other than that, you know, it didn't feel like that was necessarily a needed Baron call to push the tempo here.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hindsight 2020, right? But if you look at the situation in game, T1 just got 4 kills. They might have felt like this is it. This is where we flipped the game on its head. And it's a very understandable call as well. It's just, it's very rough when you're put in that situation and you have to make these calls on the fly. It's just not enviable.
You can see here that like T1 had that 2k gold lead, and then Team Flash had the 2k gold lead. Then T1 got them 4 kills up in the top side. It goes down to an even game, and then as soon as that even game happens, they try and flip the Baron. They think that, oh, we got an advantage, let's try and go do the Baron. But the problem is with Team1's comp, they don't have a very fast Baron clear. They have a Singe, which does Baron really slowly.
They just have Ziggs.
Ziggs,
Yeah.
which
Sorry,
Ziggs,
they just have Kazakhs, really.
to be fair, like Ziggs does a little bit damage to Baron, but it's not as quick as what you think. Like in Wild Rift, you know, the Baron, you need to take it so quickly because the death timers are so short. And they got to a point where Team Flash were able to use the teleports, use the Shen as well to ultimate in, and they were able to just clean up the Baron and the team fight.
At the beginning of the day, we picked out 3 different lanes to focus on. I selected mid with Coyote and Core. Hugh selected Zissou and JY in the jungle. And then we had Shy and Jung in the top lane. Who do you think was the most impactful?
To be fair, Shy won them that game 1.
Yep.
Shy was a monster in game 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's Shy as well. I think we got to learn a lot about Shy, even on the Shen, where they decide to flip it on over. They take away the Shen and say, anything you could do, I could do better, Jong. And he was still a huge presence in those fights. But I go back to Empty on the Alistair. That was really good. Multiple times, headbutts out, takes the Drake. And it felt like, compared to his number on the opposite side, Penguin on the Gragas, he was missing a lot of those explosive casks that would have led to smaller leads there. As we take a look at our updated bracket from the winner side, it's Nova, and from the bottom side, as we just saw, Team Flash, so the #1 seed from Southeast Asia, makes it on through. Nova, the #3 seed from the WRL, as your #1. Again, the strength of the WRL, as we said, on full display. We've seen a lot of it now, but now we do have a new dance partner into the big dance of our top 8.
Yeah, and Digon, I do believe that this means that Team Flash will set up a date with JDG in the knockout stage as well. The #1 seed coming out from Group D will play the #2 seed from Group A. That's going to be a very difficult matchup from Team Flash. I'm going to be honest with you. Hopefully they can find their footing and put on a good show for us there.
Yeah, again, a lot of questions to be answered here by Team Flash, but we do know that they have some of the best micro in the game.
Yeah.
They were willing to make those macro hero calls.
You start hearing shouts on stage, you know who's up there.
They're yelling at each other. Like RRQ and Sengoku Gaming, they can't even wait for us to set it up here. We're trying to set up the game.
Yeah.
But again, that will be our next matchup. Final thoughts here on Team Flash.
Team Flash, I think they look okay. They don't look as strong as maybe what they were coming into, from the WCS. I think there was a lot of expectation on their shoulders. They haven't lived up to it just yet, but they've got a little bit of time now to prepare for JDG, and they need to prepare really, really well.
Well, just goodbye to T1, right? It's such a shame. I feel like they had a lot of good showings this tournament, but ultimately wasn't enough against Team Flash. But Team Flash, I'm still not completely sold on them. I feel like they're not at their WCS form yet, especially Zissou. We need to see them figure that out between now and knockouts.
So is Zissou, that was my next question, is Zissou the player that needs to step up the most?
He was in my top 5 players to watch here, right? And I feel like off the team, he's been the one that's kind of been slumping the most. I'm not sure if that's the right word, but he hasn't been delivering 100% outside of his Lee Sin. And I don't think he's ever getting that champion again. So he needs to find comfort picks on the rest of the new champions in the meta and show that off.
Yeah, he's got time to practice now. He's got time to, scrim. They've got a lot of scrim time now. They've got a few days until that knockout stage now. I feel like they do have a chance against JDG. I feel like, it's possible.
Rough.
It is rough, but it is possible. I mean, #1 seed against a #2 seed from China. It's going to be a really, really exciting game in the knockouts.
We have Mika on the case. She will be doing an interview in just a little bit, so hang tight for that one. At the top of this game, we also set up the priority of the Kazakhs.
Yeah.
We got to see it twice now.
First pick.
And twice in a row, it didn't really take over too much here, y'all. So I think we're going to need to find a new priority list on this jungler. What do you think here? Jungler role.
There's a situation where it's just like, whoever we talk about as like a priority pick, first it was Illusion, who had a really, really low win percentage. Then it was Kazakhs now, who got first pick, but has, it's not really performing too well. What's the next pick going to be? That's going to be a high priority. That's going to be on the losing team.
I think the unfortunate thing about both of these champions is that they're definitely very strong scrim champions, just by the nature of their kits. They're very aggressive. You play aggressive in scrims, they pop off, you have a good read on them coming into the tournament. But the problem is, if you don't get a lead in tournaments when teams play a bit slower, it can be a bit hard to play around. Good news is Kha'Zix has other options. He takes some neutrals fast, can play side lane. I do expect him to still be a high priority pick in the future.
And one thing that we saw to try and slow that down was the Shen on both sides, right? Hey, don't come top lane. I'll go ahead and shield myself. I won't take any damage. If anything, I'll make you look dumb. And as you try to dive under the tower, I'll taunt you and you'll die. So Shen priority is starting to get up. We got any Shen stonkers up here?
RRQ just going. It's so hard right now. It's like you just hear RRQ behind us just shouting and screaming at the top of their
Helios is
lungs.
cackling right now.
They are trilling in falsetto pitch. All right. I know the guys are ready to go and get their game in, but before we do, we're going to send it on over to Miku, standing by with one of the Team Flash members.
Thanks, guys. Mika Fabs here, and I'm with Ellie from Team Flash. Congratulations, you have the knockout stage secured. Now, we have to take it back to the game one. Who made that call to go for the base?
Chúc mừng em đã đến với trận tứ kết. Tuy nhiên hãy nhìn vào cái trận đầu tiên một xíu thì ai là người đưa ra cái quyết định đẩy vào nhà của đội tuyển T1 vào cái thời khắc đấy?
Em không nhớ. Không nhớ thật. Nhưng mà đi ra hỏi mấy ông ấy sẽ biết sau.
It was kind of in the middle of the match, so we were trying to figure out what we're going to do next because T1 is getting stronger and stronger by time. So at that time, I think I saw a chance, but so I just go with my decision. But I do not really know who made the call. I just see the chance, so I just do it.
Amazing, great instinct. Now, do you have a message to all of the fans out there cheering for Team Flash?
Và bây giờ thì em cũng đã có một cái lượng fan hâm mộ rất là lớn đang cổ vũ cho Team Flash với cái màn trình diễn của mình.
Yes, thank you. Thì sao?
Do you have a message for all the fans?
Em có muốn gửi điều gì đến các fan hâm mộ của mình không?
Cảm ơn mọi người đã theo dõi hành trình từ đầu giải top chiến cho đến giờ và hy vọng mọi người vẫn luôn theo dõi và ủng hộ Team Flash trong sắp tới.
Thank you for supporting us for the whole journey, and I hope everyone will keep watching us and keep supporting us because we are expecting to bring out the better and better performance in the next round. So thank you very much.
Looking forward to it. Congratulations to you, Ellie, and the rest of Team Flash. Back to you guys on the analyst desk.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Mika Fabs on the mic there with Ellie, who, again, another kind boy just saying thank you. I just went with my instinct. The champion was in front. All right. Now let's turn our focus to this next one, Sengoku Gaming versus RRQ. Can the WCS make it 2 for 2, or will the #1 seed from the WJL take the lead here? And I think to set this one up, two things to know. One, the lane to watch here, the jungle matchup. Kha'Zix and Rush on the opposite side. Number two, a stat that